I also had a baby for the Killers of the Flower Moon. Full carriage and everything. There's only like 6 people in the movie theater because there was only 6 people in all of Brooklyn who had the time to go see it.
You saw this at the Alpine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also an odd place to go see Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. It was in the big theater, but like this baby was quiet the whole movie. The last 40 minutes starts crying. Respect to the dad and the mom. I would have lost it. But also, why are you bringing a baby? I don't know.
I think it's probably like she thought like 3.5 hour movie. It'll probably knock him out.
Yeah, I mean the baby was already asleep when they showed up, but still, I don't know. Krista is of the convincing that you can just bring a baby anywhere, and when you have kids, it's totally fine. And I just don't want to bring them anywhere. Like, they're a baby.
Peter and I, we were talking about movie theaters when we met up for Killers of the Flower Moon because we went to the Nighthawk.
Right.
And it's super, like, trendy over there, hipster. Eddie says that there's fights that happen over there. We were just talking about, like, the old school way of going to a movie theater because the Nighthawk felt very retro. And it's, like, similar to when you said with Old Boy, they played, like, the old trailers and everything. And we were talking and was like, don't you just miss that old promo at the beginning when it sounded like a baby was like just wreaking havoc and you were like, yo, who the fuck just brought a baby into this theater right now? The starting right when the movie starts and then you realize it's the commercial. Do you remember that one?
No. Oh man, no. But I'm glad everybody's still the same. Who the F would bring a baby to the movie theater? So clearly, yeah. They gotta start playing more of that. By the way, do you know what Five Nights at Freddy's called on the internet? FNAF.
Yeah, I saw the acronym.
I'm not calling it that. I call it Five Nights at Freddy's, all right.
It's like the LGBTQs adding 12 different letters.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Sound, speeding, camera, rolling. Scene 39, take 303, mark.
Welcome to Take 303, powered by 4-Way Media, the podcast with the guy who knows a lot about film.
And his friend.
I'm Nick Molinari.
I'm JP Brooks. We're talking everything film and television, and today we are talking about Five Nights at Freddy's and Donnie Darko.
But first, in cinematic news.
Cinematic news!
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 is delayed until 2025.
Let's go, baby. Yes.
For another 2 more years, you won't have to see that. You can completely forget about the first one because Paramount is rearranging their lineup. So that's being pushed back.
Okay. There.
Also, Scorsese came out in an interview. Lots of Killers of the Flower Moon press. He said he wishes he could write like Tarantino.
What does he mean by that?
Because he doesn't write most of his scripts.
He just directs.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
So in a question that you asked me a while back from another episode, what defines a director is how they can transform a script and, bring it to screen with all the right people, right cinematographers, right actors, all that stuff, and piece it all together and edit it properly, and being like the overseer of that.
It just clicked for me for a second. I finally think I understand the difference. I guess now that I'm doing some script writing with you and I'm on my own, I'm definitely thinking more in my head, director-wise, already how I expect the shot to be, what it should look like on the screen, rather than just writing the script. I go, it should be done this way, this way, this way. A director is someone who reads it, and that's what they do, right? They think about how it should look, what shot to take, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
If you ended up in the hands of a bad director, and vice versa, I'm sure even a poor script can look really good, or like an average one.
Even when we were doing the casting sessions, remember when we watched some of the reels?
Yeah.
And you said oh, this is a good actor, but maybe they were given a poor script.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but Peter was telling us about Eddie's recount of Killers of the Flower Moon. Mm-hmm. He said that it was changed drastically from the book, where the book focused on the FBI and the upbringings of that, whereas the movie focused more on the family, on the Native Americans and Leonardo DiCaprio's character and De Niro. One of the actors, Lily Gladstone, her co-star on Reservation Dogs. Have you heard about that one? It's a TV show about Native Americans.
Okay.
They're co-stars together. She watched Killers of the Flower Moon. She thought it was a poor representation of Native Americans and that it was done from the white perspective only. And I know that you're our resident white guy on the show, so you have a lot to talk about.
Resident white guy.
Yeah, when it comes to white topics, I can't speak on it.
You can definitely speak on white topics. I'm just going to let you know if they're accurate or not.
But I guess a short question out of that is, after seeing Killers of the Flower Moon, do you think it was about a white savior complex or no?
No. I think, in fact, who's De Niro's character?
The uncle.
The uncle. I think he's actually a mockery or a showing what a fake white savior looks like the actual. I'm not like white savior, whatever you want to call it. It's been done in movies before, poorly, but this one is showing like people who really think that that's a good thing. This guy is pretending to be that savior model.
Yeah,
all
like
stuff's confusing.
Killers of the Flower Moon literally starts in a hut with people speaking a different language, and they put subtitles. They don't have actors speaking English all the time.
Yeah.
There's even scenes where you don't hear everything that's going on completely. So to say this is done from a completely white perspective, I think that's a little bit off. I think the girl from Reservation Dogs is just a little sassy and upset that she didn't get to be in a Scorsese movie. That's what I feel like it is.
It could be. Yeah, and the other thing I would say too is it's the story of how the people from the East Coast came over, who were predominantly Dutch and white, came over and tricked and abused the Native Americans and what they had.
But speaking of things that are confusing and argumentative, Donnie Darko.
Yeah, good transition.
Killers of the great transitions over here.
Yeah.
Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Jenna Malone, Maggie Gyllenhaal, James Duval, Drew Barrymore, Mary McDonald, Catherine Ross, Patrick Swayze, Noah Weil, and Seth Rogen.
Donnie Darko follows Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie Darko, a young boy who sleepwalks, has some issues, goes to therapy, and is trying to figure out life when one day a jet engine from a plane crashes into his home. And after that, things begin to get very strange and even weirder for Donnie Darko as he navigates through the normalcies of life. And that is what this movie is about.
In keeping with the duality of man, which seems to be a running gag on this show, this wasn't recommended by me. This is from JP.
Yes.
Because it would be you to be like the common man and then bring out like the most hipster cult film possible.
This is not a hipster. Is this a cult film?
It's a cult film. Yeah, it's a cult classic.
Which means, according to Peter Fiorentino, is a movie that was bad. It's just a bad movie.
I think he said if it was a classic, it would have been a classic.
I think it is a classic. A misunderstood classic.
And it's funny, I watched this with Sam, and she was like, she just turned to me and she's like, is this Shutter Island bullshit all over? It's back to back.
Yeah.
But initial first thoughts, because I've never seen it. It's been on my list for a long time. And I'm glad that you said it. And it almost got kicked off our schedule. And then we found a gap where we could just fit it in. And I was like, yeah, let's put it in because I want to see this. I want to know what it's about. And I still am not sure if I know what it's about. But
yeah, you watched it only a few hours ago. So that's definitely... This is a movie where you definitely need time to sit with it. So I'll try to help you through it.
Yeah. So like initial first thoughts, I think it has definitely like a really cool premise. I definitely think it's a product of its time. I think it's very much evoking a mood and atmosphere of people that I didn't quite connect with. So I'm not sure if I'm the, audience for this movie. And I do think that there's a lot of cool things happening. I think script-wise, maybe not enough is holding it together, but we'll get into that. What did you think?
It's probably one of the first movies that was out of the box for me. Like where I stepped away from like mainstream movies about strange topics that are done very seriously, not goofy. So I really liked the movie. Watching it again, and it's probably like the third time I've seen it now. I definitely see more of the issues with script and some of the dialogue and some other stuff. So some of the weaknesses came out a lot quicker. I definitely before seeing this would have been a 5 before we had to watch it today. But definitely after watching it, I think there are some issues. There are enough issues there where I'm definitely going to have to move it. Or I might not. Still undecided. But maybe after we talk.
Yeah, I've been stuck between about 2 or 3 different numbers on this one.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
So, I think, first off, I think we have to just talk about the story. And Spoilers.
Yeah.
100%. There's no way to not spoil when talking about this. And so...
Can I ask you one thing before we do that? Because we just said spoilers. Do you think it's worth people's time to watch it?
I don't think it's worth the watch if you're a regular moviegoer. I think if you're looking for something that's something to think about, then watch it. But if you're the kind of person that only watches blockbusters and Marvel, this is not for you. Yeah,
and that's what I was actually going to say before we got into spoilers is that one thing about this movie, my thoughts about it is not the common man's movie. This is an intellectual movie. That's where I think it hits the most, and I enjoy when my intellect is engaged and piqued. So that's probably why I like this movie more than I think the average person. So that being said, spoilers.
So first off, I enjoy these kinds of movies. I like when movies make you think. Even when I showed you the script for Remember Life, something that we're going to put into production later on. I like sci-fi films that can, change reality and bend ways of thinking and put a scientific theory that maybe we haven't come up with yet into practice, but trying to make it work on the screen is another thing. That's why that script took me so long to kind of put together, because it's like you have to find a way to make it digestible for people and get them to understand it. And one thing that we learn is an easy way to, bring information forward is subtext. And I think this movie is lacking the subtext that it needs to really bring its information home.
Yeah, there is no guide for that. You've got to put it together. And there are lots of things the movie just doesn't tell you. And hopefully, after our discussion, it'll start adding up.
Well, I had one advantage. I was sitting next to, a medical student.
Yeah.
So initially, she already told me his diagnosis before the therapist in the movie told the audience.
Was she right?
She was 100% right.
Awesome.
So good on her. She definitely knows what she's doing. But yeah, Sam called it, and she said exactly what Jake Gyllenhaal's character has, which is like schizophrenia, but specifically
he has daytime hallucinations. Yeah, daylight hallucinations.
Yeah. And the movie plays a lot with that to make it feel very dreamlike. A lot of the sequences, even like when they're smoking in the bus, it comes off like a dream. The way the camera just, swivels in and out.
So let me ask you a question, because I have, obviously, if there's a movie that interests me, I read up everything. So I've got my theories and stuff and what the internet says about it. What do you think happened in this movie? Let's start there. What happened?
So there's a kid named Donnie Darko who obviously has his hallucinations, and a bunny creature kind of comes to him and tells him that the world is going to end in 26 days and odd some hours and minutes and seconds.
Frank the bunny.
And he follows him. He has a case of sleepwalking. He follows him into the night. That night, a jet engine crashes into his bedroom in suburbia. So they also play with a lot of themes of like isolationists, like emo kids living in suburbia.
Middlesex, small town, everybody knows each other. Yeah.
They go to a private school, so everyone's dressed alike. A lot of external themes about, being mushed in with everyone else. Yeah. And basically he's just like trudging through life. He finds a girl that he likes. He has an awkward kind of entanglement with her, so a coming of age story at the same time. And everybody, all the characters are conflicted in a sense where there's a teacher that has like big ideas for like what she wants to teach the students, but they're also like controversial. There's like a motivational speaker that comes in with a troubled life himself. So there's a lot of we're all clean cut on the outside, and then inside everybody seems to have their own problems. And basically the bunny keeps sending him out to do different pranks and vandalizations in the neighborhood. It gets to the point where he gets into like time travel, the idea of time travel. He reads a book written by one of his neighbors that went crazy or senile. And when he's trying to ask up more information about that, because that's what he's getting into, he gets, into an altercation with some bullies, one of which smacks into his girlfriend with his car. And then this is where the movie lost me.
Yeah, this is where the movie loses everybody.
He thinks about things, and then either he time traveled to reverse the effects of what happened over the last 28 days, and he didn't end up having a relationship with his girl, and he never technically met her, and now that's the reason she's alive. But that also caused him to die because he never left his room and the jet engine crashed into his room. So either he hallucinated the whole thing, or he time traveled, or something else that I haven't thought of.
Okay, great. So you got to the problems, is it hallucinations or is it time travel? So let's start from the beginning. The person who wrote that book is his neighbor, and she's crazy, right? She's perceived as crazy, okay? And she's the one who writes this book about time travel. Donnie Darko is perceived as crazy, and he finds this book about time travel.
He's also the poster child for kids you would put on a list for doing something stupid. Sam and
Yeah.
I, we thought it was going to be like a mass kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what it felt like, because it was like loner white
Yeah.
kid, and like halfway through the movie he pulls out the hoodie. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's going down.
So let's start with Frank. So we see Frank, the guy, the bunny costume character who appears to Donnie throughout the film. And then we see Frank, the guy who's driving the car.
Yeah,
Donnie kills him.
right.
That Frank that we see in the car and the Frank we see at the beginning of the movie, do you believe them to be the same person? That's the first question I have to ask.
So I don't. I think they were just wearing similar costumes. That's my theory.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I didn't want to give away, but now I'm just going to explain. Here's the explaining the movie part. There's no
Go
point
for it.
hiding. Okay.
But you have to also explain where you're getting this from,
Yes.
if it's from the movie specifically or something you read.
Okay. So first thing, let's take into consideration. And this I kind of pieced together on my own. This woman, who is this deeply religious figure, person, was a nun, left, then writes this book about time travel, right? How does she know all this information? That's the question. And it happens to be his neighbor, who's seen as a cuckoo. Okay.
Well, she's a science teacher.
She's a science. She becomes a science teacher. And then she starts writing about time travel. It's the philosophy of time travel. So philosophy, if you don't know the word, it means wisdom. It means love, wisdom. So it's loving the study of knowledge. So it's the love of the study of knowledge about time travel. So where or how would she learn about this? She uses other theories, and this is what she comes up with. Anytime Donnie Darko is talking to his teacher about the book, that is the most important parts of the movie. Because it's explaining to you everything that is happening to Donnie. How time travel could be possible. You need two things. You need a vessel, and you need a portal. If you have those two things and an exit, you can travel through time. So a receiver, vessel, portal, you can go through time. And there can be alternate universes. But I want you to imagine this. What if this person we know as Donnie Darko, let's just say the woman and him are essentially the same character who experience the same things. Even though that woman is perceived as crazy and she's lost her mind, she still wrote that book, which is a pretty deep and knowledgeable book. So even though she's perceived as crazy, she's actually very smart, in the same way that Donnie Darko is pretty smart.
Yeah, and wildly intelligent.
Wildly intelligent. He's clearly got some disturbances and some issues. Okay. But really his big issue is that he sleepwalks. That's the first thing we see. Beyond that, what are Donnie's other major issues?
He sees the bunny. He sees the kind of like portal things.
The portal.
Coming from the bodies.
What if I told you that was all the hallucinations and all that? That's just all of that is just a product because Donnie Darko's in a time travel problem. He's not actually that crazy. The hallucinations are all part of the time travel problem. So this is the meat of the story. Donnie Darko is in an alternate universe. There is an artifact. An artifact appears and it causes a problem. It causes an alternate timeline. We're in the multiverse here.
And the artifact is the jet plane?
The jet engine. Correct.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko is supposed to die in the jet engine crash. He doesn't. Why? Because the rabbit, Frank, tells him to leave his house. Okay?
Okay.
Frank saves him. So now, at the end of the movie, Donnie Darko is bringing the artifact back to where he belongs, and in a sense, crushing him, which then allows the original timeline to continue. Why? In the book about philosophy of time travel, when an alternate universe happens, the primary, the first, the original, stands still until the tangent universe resolves itself. And these can come out of nowhere.
Okay. Now, I just have one question.
Sure.
Because I don't know if I missed it, but how does he control the jet plane to happen again?
Because he's the receiver.
Meaning
He is the person from who has the power to control time. He is the person who can affect and manipulate the jet engine.
So he is the vessel.
He is the vessel.
Because I was also, not to, I don't know if it's this deep.
Yeah.
Because I was, just thinking of everything. I felt like there was like a Jesus allegory happening.
Definitely there's a thing about God for sure.
Because I know there was a God conversation about free will and predetermination. Yeah. But it felt like whenever I hear the word vessel, there's two definitions, especially both of us having grown up in, a Catholic school setting where a vessel often is referred to as Jesus.
Yeah.
And when you said like he's thought of as the same person as, the lady outside. Is it like the 3 persons, 1 God kind of situation going on? But
don't think too deep into
yeah,
that.
like I thought maybe I was digging too deep of a hole here.
Yeah, don't worry too much about that. Just think of it more as that he's like he is the chosen one though. That is
See, as you say that sounds more like a Jesus
yeah,
thing.
it is more like Jesus, but think about it, he's the chosen special one. And that person talking to him, the bunny, they're considered some weird ghosty group that has the ability to talk to this one that helps guide them to what they have to do. So
Like a Holy Spirit?
kind of. You can look at it how you want. They're called like the ghosts or the intangibles, something like that. And so basically they're just trying to help him get to where he has to get to. Because if he doesn't, like what happens is that the primary universe, and they all begin to crumble onto themselves. Like time, like just begins to break down. And very much like in the Marvel movies, like if time isn't going well or too many, things break off, everything starts to break down. The fabric of reality begins to break. It's the same sort of deal there. And so the jet engine, the only difference this time is the rabbit never wakes him up. So he gets killed. And because he gets killed, the girl never da-da-da-da-da. So everything we're seeing is a tangent universe where Donnie Darko doesn't get crushed by the jet engine.
Yeah, I understood that part. I just didn't understand how we got there.
Yeah.
Like that 1 minute, transition.
Yes.
See, I'm good at transitions.
You are good.
I should have brought that to the table in 2001. But
by the way, I may have spoken. It is a fictional book.
Okay.
It's not a real book, but people have taken the notes and written a bunch of stuff about it. So I say you can read it. You can read what the people have written about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because it's so confusing.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, why does the bunny say there's 26 days left in the world or something like that?
The timeline, that's how much time he has left to get the artifact, which is the jet engine, back to where it needs to be and to loop it.
Okay. So, because he's saying there's 26 days left, and then he tells him to move out of the room. So why wouldn't he just keep him there and keep the timeline in place?
So that's what I wondered too, but the tangent universe that starts. So don't think of the tangent universe starting necessarily because Donnie Darko lives. It just starts randomly out of nowhere. Fabric can just break down and it starts. So the rabbit realizes that Donnie Darko, in order to fix it, he's got to send it back. So he can't let it continue the way it's going. So he has to save him first, and then Donnie Darko's got to fix it. So it comes they do a really poor job of explaining that aspect. I've always been confused by that as well. But just know that if a vessel or a receiver finds a portal, they can travel back through time.
Okay, so now I feel like I have a good understanding of what happened. So to circle back to our usual set of questions, obviously Jake Gyllenhaal kills it in this movie. Is there anyone else shining out to you?
Gretchen. Like Gretchen in this movie. His, what's her name? I don't know her.
Jenna Malone.
Jenna Malone's doing a good job. And obviously, though he's not a character necessarily, Frank the bunny is such this is an atmospheric movie. It's all about atmosphere and feel and tone.
Oh, yeah, because that's why I kept talking about themes and setting at the beginning, because this movie is all about that. I don't know if it's because it was made in 1988, it feels like such a, product. But at the same time, I see that they're going for a very specific niche area of people. So, when we talk, ironically, later about Five Nights at Freddy's, we're talking about a group of people who assembled with this video game that's a very specific group of people who are hyping this movie higher than it needs to be. But that's something we'll talk about after the break. But I definitely think Donnie Darko is definitely within a group of people, a clique in high school that exists probably in every high school, but very much in suburbia, where they feel very they're told to be a part of a group, but they don't fit in, but they're dressed like them. And, there's nothing to do, so they find things to do. It feels very old schooly. Yeah,
it's definitely a lot of the themes and ideas. I mean, even the presidential debate being a forefront of pop culture at the time. It's very much, if you grew up during this time, you probably will relate to the movie more.
I had a Wakanda moment again in this.
Yeah.
Because for viewers of the show, Killers of the Flower Moon reference Wakanda a few times, being part of one of the tribes. Apparently is a real thing. But in this one, they were, vote for Dukakis.
Yeah, vote for Dukakis.
And there's a real Dukakis.
Yeah.
So I just laughed every time they were like, love that guy Dukakis.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the jet engine that was supposed to kill him in his original universe. Sorry to sidetrack real quick. I read it again. This time, like, I've read this a million times, and I still lose it. The jet engine that crashes with the Donnie Darko that we see is the Tangent universe. That jet engine is never supposed to crash there. It's supposed to crash in the primary universe where Donnie Darko's supposed to die. So he has to bring it back to the original universe. That's why the rabbit saves him, because in this universe, he's not supposed to die. Tangent universe, bring it back. Hopefully that clears it up.
Sure.
Yeah, Donnie Darko. It's a crazy movie. I really. Yeah.
So Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible in this.
Yeah.
I do think the script needs some work.
Yeah.
And cinematography wise, I really like the setting. I like how it's shot. I like the spinning shots. Those are my crane shots in this one.
Yeah, the crane shots. Yeah, I gotta love the crane shots.
Yeah.
You just gotta get you on a crane.
Oh man, when I get on a crane one day, there needs to be a lot of behind the scenes photos of me approaching this crane. But yeah, so I think that's like the major thing for me is like I feel like if they were just able to connect the dots a little bit more, I would have enjoyed it much more. But it's definitely something that's unique and something that I feel like similar to how you said Shutter Island needs to be watched like multiple times. I feel like this needs to be watched multiple times to really like understand things, but also I feel like you can grab things that you didn't see the first time, and you can have like different arguments about what's happening. So I think it's a very interesting movie.
Yeah. I really like the music too. I think some of this music is like
such an emo playlist,
but also just like all the creepy vibes it gives. It does like, I think some of the Donnie Darko music is, I've heard it before, like other people use the soundtrack for other videos. I'm like, oh, that's Donnie Darko. Yeah. By the way, I always thought the bunny was going to be him when I first watched it at the end. Like, this is such a classic. It's me. Yeah.
Let me see. Favorite scenes?
I love his speech about you can't categorize things into fear or love. Can I also just say best written dad ever? Just another great dad in a great movie.
To support his son when he's laughing about like telling a teacher to shove it up her ass.
Yeah. That's like, the dad doesn't have a lot of lines, but just his interactions with his family is just very much like, yeah. He's not an asshole. Like, I think too many times in movies, obviously, if you're a dad, you're written always poorly and you're just this awful person for existing. But the other dad they write is just a dad who doesn't care, is just uninvolved in his kid's life. He just seems like a regular dad, and you like to see it. Is laughing in the principal's office about a teacher getting told to shove something up her ass, and is laughing out of the office. Like,
I definitely like the beginning dinner scene where the most unrealistic dialogue between any family members possible, just like being shot at random rapid speed. It's like, what is happening right now? So I think that all of that adds to like the feeling and the vibes, the themes of like, this feels so out of place, out of world kind of vibe.
I agree with you. The opening is probably the weakest for this movie, especially the dialogue. Yeah, that dinner, I didn't realize how bad it was on the third time. I think the first time you're watching, you're like, what? Confused. Second time, you're really just hard trying to figure it all out.
It confuses me also to know that, like, the Gyllenhaals are real-life siblings, and I'm like, you guys had to have looked at each other and been like, sir, this is not how we talk at all. Like,
yeah. But it's cool that they got, as real-life brother and sister, casted as brothers and sisters. That's pretty cool. But this really, I think, kicked off Gyllenhaal's career. It's like his first big thing.
Yeah.
This is such a weird movie to talk about.
I feel like I need Ben Kingsley with like a chart to be pointing at and see like, here's the
I should have made you a chart. That's where I goofed. I never make you charts. You always make me charts.
Well, I've seen your chicken scratch. I don't think a chart from you would help.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I'm not, but like I can at least drew. Maybe a better way to understand this movie, Nick, to really bring it home, is the universe of which we're watching everything. As soon as the bunny shows up, we're in an alternate universe, and the bunny is trying to help him, Frank, is trying to help him bring the jet engine back to the original universe where he dies.
And before, you asked me this question earlier of, do I think the bunny Frank in the bunny suit and the Frank the bunny are the same person. Do you think they're the same person?
I don't think they're the same person. I think some people make the mistake. I think the bunny represents a person he would have never shot and killed. And that's why
it takes the form of it?
That's why it takes the form of it. It's a representation of the alternate universe of someone or something that, like, for example, if that person was never supposed to die, then how could it have a ghost? Like, that doesn't make right. So it's a tangent universe, and that's why I feel like this guy dying is the part of the universe that tells us, hey, it's not supposed to be like this. Fix it. And so Frank represents something major and tragic that happens that really should not be.
Yeah, Donnie Darko is a weird watch, but a very interesting watch, I will say. It's not too intellectual for me where I'm turned off from it. So it's nothing like, I think maybe like The Cube, where it was like really over the top. But I do think it's definitely not for your average moviegoer. I think if the script was a little bit tighter in terms of explaining things, I think some things need to be explained. I don't like movies where you have to like read things about the movie and have people like spoon feed you things. I want the movie to explain that.
Yeah.
Even if it takes multiple watches to like get the subtleties of it. I think I've narrowed it. I'm between a 3 and a 4. I would want to give it a 4 because of the premise and its somewhat execution, but because of its writing, I feel like I got to drag it down to a 3. So I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5.
It seemed like you usually always caught between two numbers, and that was like I think one of the tougher ones.
I feel like I just need to watch it again.
I really think if you watch it again, you'll love it, and I really loved it on my second time. My third time, I became more aware of its issues. But I'm glad you do want to watch it again.
Oh yeah,
that's great because I think my problem with Donnie Darko is people wouldn't give it a second shot, and I think it's a movie that begs to be watched a second time just because of the ending.
Also, on a side note, how did Drew Barrymore's character get away? She got more in trouble about the book situation and less about
what she said to the girl.
Yeah. I was like, damn, girl.
Yeah.
It's like, you're the teacher,
Drew Barrymore's in this movie, by the way.
A lot of people are in this movie.
Yeah. Donnie Darko, what can I say about it? For somebody who likes to think and who likes to read and who likes to do nerdy stuff, this is a movie made for me. It's the perfect kind of movie where you can figure things out. It's just really tough. And by the way, I never read any of this stuff until I watched it twice. I said, let me try to figure it out. And then I figured out stuff afterwards. So I think it's a great movie if you're looking for a puzzle in life, if you're looking to solve something. And I think despite as much as there are big themes about the universe and time travel, what is God, all these questions, at the same time, it also deals with the very mundane, everyday BS of living in the suburbs, which I think is just a funny contrast of how we think what things are important and what things aren't. So I really like Donnie Darko, but there are problems with it, which I think you pointed out correctly on your first watch, and even now on my third. So it's a 4 out of 5. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie. You know, it's funny. I might have to even adjust and go back. Maybe I'll watch it a 4th time, give it a 5. Maybe that's progression. What is it I don't understand? Ooh, 2nd time, I think I understand. 3rd time, I see its flaws. 5th time, 4th time, it's still great. Give it a 5. I don't know. We'll see.
And speaking of things that confused us, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh my gosh.
Stay tuned for our review right after the break.
With the rise of Five Nights at Freddy's, you'll be seeing people out on the streets wearing animatronic figures looking like animals and dogs. The invasion of the furries is upon us, so you're going to need something what's called furry protection. That's right. The company called Furry Off is going to do everything it can to keep the furries outside of your home. What is a furry? It's somebody that should have never come into the public space. We're going to defeat them with logic and cologne. That's right. The brand new cologne Furry Off will keep anybody who dresses up as an animal in their spare time and goes to conventions to make sure they never enter your home again. You're going to do things like have a job, go out to the real world, and socialize. All of these things will easily defeat the furries, and all you need is our cologne to top it off. The cologne will smell like a fresh shower, soap, and most of all, respect and acceptance. All of these things will stop the furries from invading your home. Animatronics are meant to be seen on the big screens, not on somebody's plastic ear set that you see them with running around all the time. If you see a furry and you see a tail and go, why is that attached to a human? Simply spray this cologne and they will simply begin to melt away. Send them back to the basements and back to the internet. Don't let them into your homes. Furry Off. Use the discount code I will shoot you if you come back onto this premise. Use the discount code FurryFreddies to make sure you stop furries from entering your life. Spray them with cologne and make sure they stay in their basements. This episode is powered and sponsored by Fort Wayne Media. Whether it's a special event, your wedding day, or maybe a small business looking to make an advertisement or commercial, Fort Wayne Media is the obvious choice. They turn everyday life into a cinematic experience. When you want to capture those special moments, look no further. Stop what you're doing. Check out fortwaymedia.com. Book an appointment today and don't miss out on another chance to get what you want in front of the big screen. Whether it is expert videography or photography, Fort Wayne Media can match exactly what you're looking for. Fort Wayne Media is known for helping out small businesses and everyone reach their dreams. Sign up today.
Welcome back, and before we hop into Five Nights at Freddy's, this week's What If?
What if Jake Gyllenhaal played Batman for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And it's a Christopher Nolan, like a perfect question for you because Christopher Nolan, I know you and him go way back.
Oh, Chrissy Knowles. Yeah, no, I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy is so iconic for Christian Bale, and I have a weird take, actually, with the trilogy because I discounted it when it first came out. I really didn't fall in love with it until The Dark Knight. I saw Batman Begins, and I wasn't wowed by it.
Yeah.
Eddie thinks Batman Begins is actually the strongest of the trilogy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
He thinks it just had all the meat and bones to what it was supposed to be, and that it was overlooked. And I overlooked it. I thought it was like, kind of like eh. And then when we saw The Dark Knight, you get that opening scene with the bank robbery. It was just amazing. But yeah, Christian Bale's Batman is so iconic for that trilogy. Like the voice, we were all doing the Rachel. Rachel. So to see someone else in that role would be interesting. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal also has like proven himself in so many different roles. Like Southpaw, he was incredible.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor. We didn't really spend a lot. We said he's good into the Donnie Darko part, but I really like him as an actor. He just has a very iconic voice. Like I think his voice is very distinct. If Jake Gyllenhaal speaking, you know who it is. But he plays quirkiness like to a T. My favorite movie by him is probably Nightcrawler, if you know that one.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal role of all time because it's just funny as he's just funny. That or Seven, not Seven. What's Zodiac Killer?
Zodiac.
Yeah, like Donnie Darko, obviously iconic. Like he just plays weird very well. And I feel like Batman, not that he couldn't do it, because I'm sure he could, because he played a really tough cop in Prisoners. But there are just certain things like, he can't play a normal guy. He plays extremes very well.
I mean, The Covenant, he was pretty normal.
I wouldn't say anything about that man's situation was normal.
I mean, the character himself, I'm saying.
No, I don't think anything about that man is normal.
And End of Watch, he was really good in.
Yeah.
Brothers.
Yeah. He's good. He's just a good actor. I don't know how his Bruce Wayne would have been. I'm not sure I would have believed his Bruce Wayne. I think Bale does both well.
I could have believed his Bruce Wayne, but I feel like it would be drastically different. Like I feel like because his voice isn't like as deep as Christian Bale, it wouldn't have come off as smooth and suave.
Yeah, maybe the voice. I just feel like I've seen Jake Gyllenhaal be a badass, so I could see him do the Batman thing. But as a billionaire, like I think Jake Gyllenhaal would do this really well. Like he does being an asshole really well, and no matter whether it's because he's crazy or because he actually is one, Bruce Wayne kind of isn't an asshole. He's a very nice philanthropist. So that's where I feel like I don't know if I've ever seen him like that. So it would have been interesting. So yeah, much different trilogy. I think though completely. Bale holds that trilogy together pretty well.
Yeah, but this week we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, unfortunately, and I think we were the people in the theater hated the most probably because we were on very different pages. Emma Tammy's Five Nights at Freddy's stars Josh Hutcherson, Dollar Store Jennifer Lawrence, Piper Rubio, Mary Stuart Matterson, and Matthew Lillard. I held that back for you.
Thank you.
I didn't want to say it last night. I was like, I gotta use it today because I was like, every single shot, I'm like, yo, what is this Dollar Store Jennifer Lawrence doing?
Five Nights at Freddy's is a movie about a man who's struggling to find work after an incident as his last job and must take a job as a security person, worker,
Guard.
as a security guard who takes a job as a security guard and must now protect and make sure nobody messes with the abandoned Freddy's Fazbear's Bonanza Pizzeria. And things get very strange as he delves into the world of animatronics at this stupid abandoned place as he battles for custody for his sister and also deals with the trauma of his brother going missing. And there's a police officer who threatens to shoot him. That's the movie.
There's no
Casually, by the way. He's not running away. Just casually, I will shoot you. And I'm not doing a second take on that. They didn't do a second take in that movie. They just did one take for everything. Oh, gosh.
I yelled police brutality. Like,
Yo, it's crazy. Now, listen. We may have been the ones who were verbal and out about how much we didn't like this movie. People were agreed with us. The people in the row in front of us were dying of laughter at us laughing at our comments. When I said, "What are you clapping about?" the girl was in tears, in stitches. So people understood where we were coming from. People behind us were confused. Everybody was confused.
yeah, I mean, it was such a jarring film. So many things happening. When you're explaining this movie, he is explaining exactly word for word what happened. And we were just so genuinely confused. I think it was the best comedy of the year. But it was the worst horror movie of the year.
Not scary
And
at all.
Sam was just sitting next to me the whole time. She was embarrassed, like, every time we laughed. Like,
Yeah, Krista was too. Krista was like, "Why are you guys laughing so loud?" Dude, this shit is funny. Because I know you're laughing. Because, like, I got in my head, he wants to laugh at that because that's pretty funny. Yeah, it's a bad movie.
yeah,
So from a film perspective, right? Dare I say the word film and Five Nights at Freddy's in the same sentence? But
it's not a film. It's a movie.
yeah, it's a movie. From a movie perspective, this movie is just trying to get made. That's all this movie is trying to get made.
Well, yeah. Initial first thoughts. This movie is based on a video game.
Yes.
And I have not played this video game. Have you?
Yes, I have not. I've seen some clips online, and I have a general sense for how it works.
I've never heard of the game before, so when this came out, I know a lot of people were like hyped about it. I was not one of those people just because I didn't know what it was about. And I feel like having seen the movie now, there's still like a lot that I probably don't understand. And when I was looking at reviews, apparently there's a lot of lore that went over our heads and a lot of homage to different things. But we are reviewing the movie and not necessarily the game. So we've talked about this when we talked about different video games. We talked about The Last of Us. We talked about Gran Turismo, and eventually.
No, I'm glad you're bringing all these
And eventually
up. Yeah.
we're going to talk about it when we do our Mortal Kombat episode. But what makes a good video game adaptation? And I think you answered it on its head when you create a good story for the movie instead of trying to translate exactly what the video game was onto the screen. And I feel like without having played the game and hearing some of the like high reviews, I think that's what's happening. The reverse of that.
Yeah, so this is clearly, from what I could tell from some of the YouTubers that I watch and know, this movie was made for the fans. This is a pure fan movie, which if you're just going to make a fan flick, like you don't need to make a movie for it. But I think some other things to know about the movie, the history, I don't know if you have the background. This movie has been 8 years delayed and has passed through many studios' hands.
It feels like it.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's a lot of things there. It's a jumbled mess.
It feels like 8 different movies.
It does, yeah. Where someone made a really good point, and they're a fan of the franchise, and this is one of the rare times where I want to hear what people who are fans of the game say about the movie. What am I not understanding? From a story writing perspective, I mean, this is one of the worst written stories it is the worst written story of the year.
Yeah, the beginning it plays out like Mystic River, where he's trying to figure out his brother's disappearance, the answer for which I am not happy about at all. Then you have his inability to keep a job, which is hysterical because he just cold cocks a father in broad daylight.
Beats the shit out of him.
Yo, I thought he was just going to tackle him and that was going to be it. And then he just starts wailing on the guy.
But no
I'm
blood.
Like, yeah.
No blood.
I'm like, what is
PG-13.
happening right now? Why wouldn't you just ask the guy, like, hey, is everything okay over here? Like a normal human being. So, like, a lot of just random happenings, a lot of things that don't quite work, that aren't realistic. Then it goes into this Five Nights at Freddy's, and the robots are friends with them, and it becomes a weird thing, and then you find out who they are, and it really doesn't, like, translate very well. And then you have the reveal at the end, and that was predictable for you.
Yeah, that was the easiest thing to see. Like, there's only like 7 characters.
Yeah,
in this
so
whole
like,
movie.
who else is it gonna be?
Yeah,
There were only 2 choices. We took the 2 choices.
it's Evil Demon, which there weren't enough women for women empowerment to defeat it, in my opinion. So I go, it can't be a demon. We only have a young girl and a female cop who's already promised brutality. So
a cop who works 24 hours a day is the only one on her beat and will shoot you if you do something wrong.
And will ignore emergencies.
Yeah. Ignore everything as a part of her job. And knows everything about this place. I'm just so confused.
Yeah. It's a confusing movie.
I'm not confused. I know what happened. I'm confused why it happened. This is not Donnie Darko over here. This is like, why did you do this?
The only relationship these 2 movies have is there are really tall buddies in this movie. And it's funny, now we're thinking about, like, they have deep lore that if you know about it, you can learn about it. So the fans loved it. Not really. Even some of the fans, like, they were kind of disappointed. They expected more. To wait 8 years just for it to be this. And you didn't make it accessible to people, right? Like, there was a lot that was paid homage to the video. So, like, one thing let's talk about some good things about it. Because obviously we're going to dunk on this movie pretty hard because it's easy to dunk on, though. Like, we're playing against 2-year-olds and we're just destroying them on the court.
This is a COD lobby and they have no chance of
no
surviving.
mics, no chance. So, are the animatronics practical or CGI?
I want to say a mix of the two.
It's a mix, right? Okay, so that's one thing. So the actual building that they got to be the Freddy's Finaza Bears or whatever, the set's pretty cool. Like, it looks legit. Especially if you ever played the game or seen anything around it, it looks pretty good. So in that respect, I gotta give it to him. I think that's probably one of the biggest positives of the film. Is that the set looks good and everything feels in place in the Freddy universe. So that feels good. Or the FNAF universe, if you're a big fan.
I'm not a fan of this acronym. It just feels wrong.
It feels wrong. Do you want to know how the game works? Quick.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for fans if they don't.
So I've only played, they might have I think there's multiple versions, but here's the original game. Here's how it works. You are a security guard inside of this weird animatronic pizzeria. And you're supposed to monitor everything. Some things will go wrong. You might have to fix them. I could even be wrong about that. But essentially, you can look at all the security cameras. And every time you're not looking at one of the cameras, right, which will let you know if something's moving, the animatronics move closer towards you. But if you look at the camera, they stop moving. So you kind of have to juggle all these different camera views and angles. And hopefully make sure that you don't get taken by the animatronics. And again, the only way to do that is if you're looking at the screen where they were just moving. And that's pretty much it. You have to survive 5 nights at Freddy's. And every night, the game gets harder and harder and harder. And they build the tension, and the music is done really well. And it really scares you when the jump scares come. The movie tried this.
It tried.
It tried really hard.
Too hard. The jump scares don't work in the movie. Every single one of them is like cut away to something that just looking at you, and you're just like, I saw your expression. You were like, what? Oh, look, I'm supposed to be scared of this. Like, no, it doesn't work. But that's what I feel like doesn't work here is that it's poised as a horror film. It doesn't work as a horror film. There's only one actual kill that happens on screen, and it's technically through a silhouette, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's the only one.
Yeah, this movie would have been good if they could have showed blood and gore. Would have been a lot better.
Yeah, in some aspects, it ends up feeling like Night at the Museum more than a horror film.
Wow, what a good comparison. This is Night at the Museum, but not fun.
At all.
Instead of jokes, we have bad horror.
Yeah.
Or attempt at horror, because to call it horror would be an insult. The craziest thing that happened was when everybody went, what? Literally, the whole movie theater, when the animatronics start being kind, by the way, spoilers if you give a shit, when the animatronics, like, start hanging out, everyone's like, what? Literally, the whole movie, even the average moviegoer's like, oh, fuck is this?
You know what I felt like? At some point, there should have been like a guy in the back that just like does the SpongeBob thing. Is like, oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
That's what I felt like should have played at least at the end credits. Like,
Yeah.
what was that?
I was thinking I wanted to shout out like at any point someone would hurt my leg. But
I mean, that's what it felt like when that guy was screaming through the holes. He was just... Sam was like, why are you laughing? He's
Jeff.
screaming. And I'm like...
is it Jeff or
Yeah.
Hank?
When the three people come in, yeah. And
The
he's
big
just...
guy is so
The
funny.
big guy, he just has like the voice of SpongeBob when he screams like, oh! Like,
He was so funny. He
and he's screaming from room to room, and you see him on the cameras, and he's like, oh! And he's like, goes to the next screen.
no surprise here what the rating's going to be, but if there is a reason to give this movie any points, it's that one guy. Because he made it fun. That's actually the best part of the movie. You want to talk about favorite scene? It's when those three guys are just messing around and the animatronics go evil. It's great.
But so here's what's not working.
Yeah.
Is that there's like 3 different movies
Yeah.
in this film, and it's trying to do all those things, and it's doing none of them effectively. Horror is completely thrown out. Does this movie take place over 5 nights? Did you count them?
Oh, I think it might. It might actually be 5 nights.
Okay.
But the problem is the daytime.
The daytime does kill it. But what I'm saying is I feel like if there were less characters and it really focused on this one character, if it really went the Donnie Darko way of like being in this setting for most of the movie and having him feel like he's going crazy, that could have been interesting. And I feel like if you held off on showing the animatronics move until maybe the very end or something like that, like they give it away in the opening sequence is a security guard getting killed by the animatronics. Like it really doesn't, for a person who might not even know of the video game, it takes away all the surprise, if there is.
Yeah, would have been better if they actually filmed it like the game. Like, what if we never left inside the pizzeria?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that would have been good. And we just like maybe there's like a still camera.
Like if it played out, if it was filmed similar, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I hated the franchise, Paranormal Activity, and it was just a lot of still frames, claustrophobic feel, one location vibes, 1 to 2, maybe 3 characters max, and that's it. That could have been an interesting movie. And then also like it was an hour and 50 minutes long. It did not need to be an hour and 50 minutes long. No horror movie needs to be an hour and 50 minutes long. Chop it down, bring it to like 80, 90 minutes, make it still frames, similar to Paranormal Activity. You could have something there.
Yeah. And still paying homage to the fans and putting all those Easter eggs. I'm sure there was a ton that we obviously didn't know a reference. I knew some of them, not all of them. They really got the security room done very well. If you look at the game and look at that.
Because if I'm thinking of a video game that's similar to it, because I'm not, I haven't played the video game, but if I'm thinking of something similar to it, what it sounds like is Resident Evil Biohazard, if you play that one.
Yes, I have. Yeah, very simplistic, though. The game is very simplistic.
So that's what I'm seeing is like if it was, one location, it could have been interesting. Maybe it works. Then it would kind of feel like Blair Witch. So yeah, as we're doing this, we're naming a lot of movies that did what it's trying to do better than how it did it.
So you know how it's, and I think for me, what was so brutal, as we mentioned and starting to learn, I really care about story and like characters and development. That's like my big thing. I could care less how it's shot or looks. That's why I play like all these little choose your own adventure things, because I'll read it. If it's a good story, it's a good story. And
so
for the story to be this poor, like this story is really, I think it's the weakest point of the movie.
It's all over the place. Tonally, it doesn't know what it is, and that's what is a problem.
Fuck that guy. Yeah, when I felt like a movie doesn't know what it's supposed to be. Like, am I about to move Demolition Man up to a 2? Like, that's where we're at. I'm really considering, like, it might be a 2.
Like, maybe it was ahead of its time. Who knows?
It's behind. Whatever you think it is, it's behind. That's why it's a 2. Oh, gosh. Just for the seashell joke, it might be a 2. Look, that's how you know a movie's really bad.
If Donnie Darko walked into a bathroom and saw 3 seashells, how much would have you flipped out?
I would have lost. Oh, my gosh. It would have been so funny.
It would make sense. The alternate universe.
Is there anything working for you? I know I've mentioned one thing about the set design. I actually think the inside of the building does look really cool. They do it very well. The animatronics, I think, actually look pretty good.
I just Googled it. It said that it was mostly practical.
Really? Good for them, because it looks really nice. I really like what they did.
Yeah, I think I would agree. That's really the only thing working here. I think there's just so much that's not working that it's distracting. And I think it all boils down to the script. I feel like it didn't need to be that way, and I can see why it went that way, because I don't know if you looked at the credits. The movie's written by the guy that made the game.
What's the game?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, the script is written by the actual guy who made the game.
Yeah. As we said with like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
The reason it was a really good video game is because the guy who wrote it is a really good writer.
Yeah.
You can't translate that most of the time. Like a lot of times, like I would not give the guys who wrote Resident Evil a hand at like making a movie.
Kingdom Hearts, no.
Exactly.
Despite my love for it, no.
However, I would 100% give money to the guys who are making the new Mortal Kombat games, because they're putting out some really good stuff with the story. But yeah, it's really just like how different things translate on screen. You have a premise for Five Nights at Freddy. There's no like cutscenes or anything else, like, right?
No, there's not, no.
So I would not put like a feature film in the hands, writing wise, of someone like that, because you didn't write a story. You wrote an idea, which are two very different things.
And yeah, and the story is told very, very similar to like when you beat the game, you get a little bit of information, you speculate a little bit. They give you the story through the game, but it's not like it has to tell one cohesive, right? It's all about the gameplay.
It's like giving someone, like the person who made Clue, the ability to make a movie out of it. It's like you didn't write the game. You wrote an idea. People play the game, and that determines the outcome. So you really can't write a story in a sense.
Yeah. No. It's tough. It's a lot. Yeah, because, you know, and doing a movie and doing a film, it's completely different. It's putting scenes together. It's overarching. This is very much Five Nights at Freddy's. You're not playing it for the lore. The lore is interesting, but that's only because the game's interesting. So,
any favorite scenes in the movie?
No,
besides our boy running and screaming for his life.
That's it. I think everything else is. It's a very boring movie. Like it's incredibly boring. I was done 40 minutes and like, please. I heard a lot of people walked out. I've been reading stuff.
I saw like this one group of people in the theater that kept taking like breaks either for concessions or bathroom, and they didn't care.
Yeah, nobody cared. Besides like a lot of the smaller guys in the front, the young kids, I would say most of the people who were in the back were very adult like us. And
oh yeah, the group behind us had a full-on conversation probably halfway through the movie. I was like, they're done.
And I didn't yell at them because like, and that's what I told like, because we were talking during the theater, like, has Sam ever seen you yell at someone yet, Joe? And I'm like, no, not yet. Maybe today. I go, but it depends on the movie. If it's a good movie, please don't talk during it. If it's a bad movie, depending on what you're doing, could be great.
Yeah, like Gran Turismo, they had it coming. But this one, talk all you want.
And that's the last thing you brought up is like, you think about Gran Turismo, Last of Us, all these things. Even though it's about the game, and if you played the game, they make all the references, and it's great. But they make the movie so that anyone, even if you haven't played the game, you can understand it. You don't need to know every detail. The details are for the fans. The overall story should be marketed so that you don't have to be a fan to understand. And that's the problem with this. I think some stuff, you have to be a fan to get it. I'm not a fan, so obviously I'm not going to like the movie. But even if I take that out of it, just from a basic film perspective, it is a very bad movie. I don't blame the director for this. I think they did the best they could with the script they got.
I think, realistically, I don't think it could have been better. It's really the script. It's just like, if they took out maybe the subplot, reconfigured how they focused their main plot, and then also thought about how they're going to film that, I think it could have done way better.
Because I feel like it's not because I don't feel like we ever spend too long anywhere. They're just literally trying to get to the next thing to hopefully that you'll like it, but you never do. So many weird choices in this movie. So many interesting, audible, what the, what? Why? People throwing, like, not just us, people, like the people in front of Chris, right in front of me, this guy looked at the girl and went, like, a genuine, huh? It's a throw your hands up in the air. It doesn't make sense. When people clapped at the end, man, yo, I want it up.
What are you clapping for?
What are we clapping about, people?
That it's over?
Yeah, there's no way we're clapping. Like, but you even heard in the clap, like even
it was a slow clap.
It was a little bit of a slow clap, but not intended to get to a crazy clap. It was just a slow, like, hey, they made it. You know what's funny is that if he doesn't make that guy work there, he doesn't have a problem. Like, he just doesn't have to work there. Like, just don't offer him the job.
Yeah, like, you brought it up, sir. Like, you created the problem.
You were supposed to make sure he didn't do anything. Dad, you hired him.
Okay, shut up. Final thoughts and ratings?
Yeah, let's get at it.
You're up.
Oh, hey, 1 out of 5 bad movie. Nick?
I'll double down for you. 1 out of 5. Just what was that? But I also have to ask you, since we're both giving this a 1. Sure. I know this is definitely in your ranking for worst film of the year, but does it beat Expendables at this point in time? Because as far as we've heard, Expendables is your bottom.
I think I really have to dig deep and look, and I don't want recency bias. Ask me in like a month or two. When we get to the Broskers, name still pending, I will really have to sit down and think, because these are like 2 stepchildren really fighting to be forgotten and left behind at a gas station. Like, they're really...
So wildly specific answer.
Yeah. They're both really like, please, I'm the worst. No, I'm the worst. They're fighting. Here's one thing I'll say. Expendables doesn't make any sense. Right? Like, there's no logic. FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's, is just doing things for no reason. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to Five Nights at Freddy's. Expendables has reason, but just, I don't know, they're doing so bad. I can't even get words. They're so bad. Expendables seems more entertaining because stuff blows up. I will give it that.
But that motorcycle, though.
And Megan Fox. Megan Fox might be the difference here. There are a lot of quotable lines from Freddy's. I will shoot you if you come back here. God, I don't know. I really got to sit and think. I really do. Thanks so much for watching. This has been another episode of Take 303. We really appreciate all the love and support. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at take.303, and of course on Spotify, maybe where you're listening to. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a rating there. This week's question of the week is, what is a movie that just really tripped up your mind, an intellectual puzzle, really weird and kind of messed you up? We'd love to know what movie of yours really messed you up. And then finally, this week's poll question of the week. Have you played Five Nights at Freddy's? Is it a good game? We'll have a poll question there for you. Would love to hear it. Maybe we'll have yes and it's good, yes and it's bad, no. That could be cool. That's for the poll questions. All right, thanks so much for watching. Next time, we will be reviewing and watching Old Dads and Pain Hustlers. Catch you next time, guys. Bye-bye.